call to order the meeting of the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education for May 8th. May we have a roll call, please? Mrs. Snowpin?
Here.
Mr. Edson?
Here.
Mr. Block?
Here.
Mr. Scribner?
Here.
Mr. Bergner? Mr. Carey?
Here.
Mrs. Gola? Here. Thank you. I don't have a president's report tonight, so we will move to the superintendent's report.
Madam President, members of the board, and members of the audience, thank you for being here tonight. Board members, a few things. First of all, Jay Hoffman, Principal Hoffman, just a quick update on Lake Forest High School.
We did finish our PSAE and ACT tests for our junior class in the middle of last week. The makeups are going on right now. The first day, which was the ACT test, we only had 5 juniors absent, which is a pretty good total. And the second day on the PSAE, we only had 9. That's great attendance for any school, and we're happy because that makes it a little bit easier on the aftermath with trying to have those made up. It is something that is required for graduation, and we're hoping that all our juniors took it serious, and we're awaiting those scores. This week, actually 2 days in the bank of AP tests. We had the chemistry and the environmental tests yesterday, along with the psychology tests. Today, we had 2 Spanish tests. And tomorrow and the next week we continue on with our APs. Leading into a pretty quick turnaround, this Saturday is prom. And so that's always a great event in our school, followed by a second week of APs. And then right on to the wellness walk on the 21st, which is Monday. And then that Wednesday, the 23rd, is our honors night, where we do honor our seniors and give them the awards that they have done really well to receive it or to earn. And it is a great night. If you have a chance to go to an honors night, please do so. It really showcases our kids and what they have done and potential that they definitely have. Also, we finished this last week the National Depression Week, where we had a lot of things going on at this school. We started Monday with a presentation from Erica's Lighthouse, and what made that different this year, since we've had Erica's Lighthouse to our school for about 6 years now and had a really good relationship with them, they always brought panelists, students from other schools, to speak to our students and to help them through their program. And this year, in January and February, we sent 15 of our own students to be trained as panelists for Erica's Lighthouse. And when they did come to our school this year, they did use our students as the panelists. So it was great to have our students delivering that message to our own students. Those same juniors and seniors also went to both 65 and 67 to talk to those students there. So we're thankful with the relationship with Erica's Lighthouse and our students being able to take part in it. On Tuesday of that week, we had a theater troupe called Erasing the Distance, and it was a theater troupe that puts on some vignettes with some kids that struggle with some things, and then after the vignette they talk a little bit about what the messages are that everyone should learn. Very well attended. About over 400 kids through the lunch periods were able to take part in that. Wednesday we did yoga, and that was great. A lot of people, and we try to do different things for different people, and this was one that got some people that otherwise might not have been enthused by it, but it really was a nice thing to actually do some physical activity with our kids right alongside us. And then Thursday we had an author come in, Ned Vanzini, who wrote a book called A Funny Thing Happened, and we had 700 of our students in the auditorium for a third period assembly with many classes that has filled up the place top and bottom and standing room only. And you could have heard a pin drop for the 45 minutes that Ned spoke. Our kids unbelievably well attended, perfect message for us at this time, and it really kept our week off beautifully. So we really tried to bring things to our students, different variety, so that we tried to catch as many as we could, and we're really proud of what we've done. And a shout out goes out to our social workers, Dan Megler, Maggie Ross, and Lisa Huffman, and they did get, as I put at your places, a little bit of shout out to them for what they put on and how hard they've been working. So Julie will give us a little update on our task force.
task force that Dr. Griffith initiated, it's about 2 months ago now. And so there's been ongoing work related to this, and you can see it's culminating. The beginning of it is ending up an event on June 7th, both the Lake Forest Graduate School of Management. I'm going to thank you to Monty for asking. Groups represented. Let me mention now, as you see up there, Darcy Hutchins, who is actually a former graduate of Lake Forest High School, now a professor at Johns Hopkins University, will be the facilitator for the program and leading about 100 people through an exercise to create an inventory of our current resources. The information from that day is going to be put into a report by Darcy Hutchins, Dr. Hutchins, and given over to Dr. Mark Reinecke of Northwestern University, who's going to be looking at that data and kind of seeing how it intersects with best practice and research-based initiatives that could further our efforts around the mental health of our youth. You can see it's supported by not only the hospital, city, and the village, and of course Lake Forest High School. We plan a larger communication to go out regarding the event, but we do want to thank the hospital for just tremendous support in terms of some recent resources. I think you've got some at your table there. And the city of Lake Forest and the village of Lake Bluff also gave very handsome donations to make this event possible. So you can see there all the different organizations that are going to be represented on June 7th. So each of these groups will have anywhere from maybe 3 to 5 individuals, except for the parents and community members and students. Will have larger groups of those stakeholders in attendance, and we'll all go through a process, and we're going to listen to the research that out of Johns Hopkins about how efforts in a community are best supported when schools, parents, and the community at large work together, and they have a large body of research around that. So we're going to listen to that as well as get into our inventory. And here Dr. Reinecke will make a short presentation that day as well. Nikki's been in on some of the meetings and so forth and has contributed. We appreciate that. I don't know, Nikki, if you'd want to add anything.
Nothing to add, just that I'm pleased that this is moving forward, and in fact that this session will take place in June. We didn't want to end up putting things off until the next school year. It's really important to move forward, so things I think are going very well. Thanks, Julie.
One thing that, Nikki, you made me think of this, is that we're also going to actually elicit comments and feedback from our community beyond the 100 people or so that come to the event on June 7th. So we're creating a web address. Actually, Cornelius has already taken care of that, and we'll be putting that out in future communication so that anybody that would like to make a comment or a suggestion or that kind of thing will be taken into account. Much the same as all of the comments that have come in through Ann Whipple, through Jay and so forth. We're incorporating all those things and looking for themes and ideas, promising ideas, and are including all of those things as well.
And can you show the Enjoy the Walk document? Thank you, Julie. Jay also. But just a follow-up to what Jay was saying, I'd like everybody to see this. Because Lake Forest High School is going to embark on an adventure on May 21st with a 2.5-mile walk around the high school. Jay mentioned this earlier, but this is all being organized by our students. It's a student wellness generated initiative. All the organization for it. It's going to be a really wonderful day at Lake Forest High School. It's all about celebrating the journey together as Lake Forest High School students. And it's part of all the little pieces that go into making Lake Forest High School a great place to be. Finally, I'd like to just mention that there is another group that started up about 18 months ago having to do with how to help students at Lake Forest High School who are living with extreme financial limitations for going to college. So board members, a brief presentation from one of our parents who is a volunteer board member, a new board member on the College Bound Opportunity organization that's now working in our schools to help us both identify and work with families who would otherwise, whose children are capable of going to college but would be significantly, have a significant difficulty. So this is Art Lewis. Art, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for letting me share a couple moments of my time with you. My name's Arthur Lewis. I'm a parent of a junior at the high school. And as Dr. Griffith said, I happen to be a volunteer board member and a mentor with College Bound Opportunities. And I came out tonight to provide you with an update on College Bound Opportunities, because it was October of 2010 that Norm Goldring came out and introduced the board and I guess the community to the program. And I'm pleased to tell you that there are 5 graduating Lake Forest High School seniors that are now college-bound Opportunity Scholars. These seniors will join other seniors being recognized on the Honors Night on May 23rd. And as the first graduating participants in the College Bound Opportunities program, just want to acknowledge that here as well. Just briefly, the cornerstone of this program, and you heard a little bit about financial, responding to those with financial need in the community, but the real cornerstone of the program is a 6-year relationship between the College Bound Opportunity Scholar, the student, and a mentor that begins with their acceptance to the program during the 2nd semester of their junior year. Pretty much everything else that's listed through the high school that you can find a scholarship on is something you apply for as a senior, so an important difference there. The relationship continues through the college graduation, so this relationship provides additional support and guidance, first in the college search and application process that augments but does not replace the efforts of the school counselors or the parents. Along the 6-year relationship, other supports are provided, and financially, the College Bound Opportunity Scholar receives up to $4,000 per year for 4 years of college. Okay. The seniors who are College Bound Opportunity Scholars are Alex Wesolowski, who will be attending the University of Illinois, Justine Burchell, who will be attending DePaul University, Paige Strohmeyer, who will be attending DePaul University, Quenisha Lockett, who will be attending Lincoln College, and Vic Capel, who will be attending the University of Minnesota. So I just want to give you that update. Thank you for the board's continuing support of the scholarship program, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. There are some folders here for you to grab on your way out. Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Board members, any questions on any of the reports that you just heard? That concludes the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Griffith. I would like to add one thing. I'll circle back to the president's report, and that is that our Lake Forest School District 67 and 115 would like to invite the community to a retirement reception honoring Dr. Griffith on Monday, May 21st from 4 to 6 p.m. in the Lake Forest High School Commons.
Yeah, you know, one thing I forgot was I wanted to show you some success that we're having out in our community with our parents who are helping us with a number of projects. And so I asked Ann to put this together for me, a sampling of donations to our schools. There it is. So, board members, I'm pleased to announce that Lake Forest High School Foundation has already raised, and the year is not finished, a record amount of funds to support classroom teaching and instruction at Lake Forest High School. Through May 2nd, the foundation has raised a little bit more than $200,000. That breaks an all-time record in annual receipts for the foundation. Grants have been distributed to our teachers. It's very exciting what they've been able to do through the donation program that they have operated this year. And the foundation will be here in September to give you a pretty thorough review of the end of year, for the end of year 2011-12 school year fundraising. So just a shout out to the foundation, great job and congratulations. But similarly, the Lake Forest High School APT. Donations for a variety of projects at the high school have come in from the APT. And for example, prom is fundraising among our parents. The goal target was $23,000. It's next week, as Principal Hoffman said, and they've raised $25,000. But Be True to Our School was a spectacular success again. And this year it raised $60,000. $20,000 are going toward completing the wireless Wi-Fi system at Lake Forest High School. Cornelius DeBose has been assisting with that. But then also $10,000 to each class treasury. And I can't help but add that District 67 Spirit of 67 Foundation has also had a great year. So the spirit of giving in our parent community and general business and out in the community in general has just really been excellent. Jay?
Harry, we also like to get a kudos to the Lake Bluff Lake Forest LDA, as they have teamed up with the foundation on grants, and they also have given the school throughout the last couple of years, especially lately, some really great items and some well-earned funds. PALS and Applause both have done a great job fundraising for our school. We recently received a check to the Enjoy the Journey account, which Harry talked about last board meeting, from a member of our community for $25,000. And Jen, what was her name? Leslie Richmond. The Richmond family had one graduate last year and a freshman at school this year. So Leslie met with Jen and gave $25,000 for the Enjoy the Journey.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to mention the Booster Club and.
Right, I was just going.
Good. Okay, I'll let you.
Well, yes, and Jay, thanks for including those. I was just trying to show a sampling of organizations, and Jay has added others. And then finally, of course, there's a significant fundraising effort going on by the Lake Forest High School Booster Club. And my understanding is that their receipts now exceed $600,000 in hand. And I think that's an outstanding job by the Diamond Campaign Group. So many congratulations for the effort that's ongoing for that particular campaign also.
Harry, if I may, I would also mention the Community Partnership Program here at West Campus, where we're talking about those kinds of things coming in. I'm talking about Varsity Field in particular, and the Wall of Excellence, and the scoreboard, and the fencing, and what have you, bringing in total about $100,000 a year of revenue that 2 years ago we had none of. So it's a rather significant contribution, and I think we owe our thanks, all of us, to the Booster Club, because all that money comes back to the school into the athletic programs at the school's direction. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think there are other efforts out there too, but just it's in the spirit of giving, I think, for our school that we want to thank all of our parent groups. Once again, that concludes the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Griffith. And now we have public participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the board about a matter that is not on the agenda this evening? All right, seeing no one, we'll move on to our report for the evening, which is the Lake Forest Consortium for Environmental Leadership. Dr. Griffith?
Yes, board members, this is just an information item for you. There has been an effort going on behind the scenes by the city manager, the school superintendent, the executive director of Open Lands, and a environmental education professor at Lake Forest College, representing the college, to create the first ever Lake Forest Consortium for Environmental Leadership. This small group has met a few times to talk about ways that our agencies can work on environmental improvements for the city of Lake Forest. And of course, our schools, it would be about education. There are many, many opportunities for the city of Lake Forest to consider a collaborative effort like this in getting together for joint effort that would benefit the overall citizenry of the community. This was initiated by the City of Lake Forest and by Lake Forest Open Lands. And I think in our case it has to do with that we have an active environmental teaching outdoor learning experience program in our schools. We do spend a lot of energy and time on that, but it's about educating our youth on carbon footprints, the value of recycling, ways to address sustainability. And meanwhile, in the City of Lake Forest, which has worked on land and ecosystem preservation, it's also recognizing the influence and importance of environmental issues on the overall quality of life in our community. And Open Lands is truly a leader in the state of Illinois with respect to sustainability and environmental responsibility. So by meeting and forming a advisory group, the hope is that there could be launched major initiatives over time that would improve the quality of living, and certainly our students would participate in that with respect to sustainability and environmental responsibility in our community. A lot of wonderful ideas, everything from saving ravines to looking at the ecosystems at large with respect to what wildlife does exist in the north to south corridor of land mass that the city sits on, and just a host of other associations. So what I have for you tonight is a memorandum of understanding that is being considered by the organizations. Lake Forest High School would appoint a member. I would like to solicit names from the board, if you don't mind, and we would appoint someone to be our advisor for the high school. Again, this is strictly advisory, but it's trying to raise the profile of the group by making it public through all the organizations. Last night, the City of Lake Forest, again, as a report, heard what the consortium goals would be about with respect to recycling, reduction of waste, tree disease. It's just a potpourri of things that could happen. And we think by formalizing a group to take a lead for us, to keep our agencies respectively coordinated, but also informed on how things are going. So with respect to any action, it would be through the Board of Education itself. And I'd like to bring this memorandum of understanding back to you as an action item in the June board meeting. And I think it'd be great if we would consider having an appointee, also a person to appoint to represent the high school. District 67 will have one also. There'll be 5 representatives on this steering committee. We're going to call it the Environmental Consortium Leadership. So wait, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It's an advisory board for the Lake Forest Consortium for Environmental Leadership. So anyways, I think it's pretty exciting. Wanted to let you know that I'd been working on this, and now it's time to see if we can't go ahead and move this forward going into next school year for us.
Any questions, board members?
Yeah, Harry, is it envisioned that the board roles would be volunteers, or would they be paid staff, or?
Yeah, I think they should be volunteers. I think it should be somebody in the community that has a keen interest that can represent the high school, but not be a paid staff person.
And I presume the role of this group would not be political advocacy or things of that nature, but educational and, as you say, advisory, recommending, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think the idea of the memorandum of understanding is to take the mission statements of the respective organizations and look where they overlap with respect to environmental issues in the community. Open Lands itself in the City of Lake Forest would, you know, as I've said, you know, schools are sort of in a reactive position because in our case it's education. But with action in the community, well, that's Open Lands in the City of Lake Forest itself. So we would likely trail in some respects, but in others, maybe from an educational point of view, we could take a leadership role too.
But you don't see financial commitments or things of that nature involved with this?
No, I don't. I think it's taking current resources that we have in our organizations and perhaps channeling them into civic action that would help the community with stepping up its sense of what's an environmentally responsible community to live in. So Open Lands and the City of Lake Forest are deeply enmeshed in getting this started, and I think it's a great opportunity for our kids to be a part of that.
Any other questions? Are these liaisons from this board or from the high school community?
I think it'd be good to have someone from the high school community, someone, one of our parents or somebody, an advocate for environmental sensitivity and issues, but also would easily coordinate with, say, Jim Sullivan, our science staff, maybe our environmental club, but also the Board of Education. So I think it would be somebody who could coordinate at all, or at least interface at all levels of our organization.
So we'll put together a description and the responsibilities and post it on the high school webpage? Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, moving on. We have our board committee reports. The first is the Board Education Committee. Nikki?
The Education Committee has not met since our last board meeting, and I imagine we probably won't for the rest of the school year. I am pleased to tell you that our 2 community members have both agreed to stay on the committee for another year, Beth Coughlin and Ann Sorensen. Both are very highly valued members of our committee, and we thought it would be good to try and keep the committee intact for when our new superintendent comes in so he can see how our committees are currently functioning. So I'm really pleased to have both of them on again for next year. Thanks.
Thank you, Nikki. Next, Board Operations Committee, Dick Block.
The Operations Committee met twice in the last month since our last meeting. Both were joint meetings with the Finance Committee and the Boosters Club for us to explore opportunities and possibilities in moving forward with the Diamond Anniversary Campaign project. And most of those discussions were financial in nature, so I don't want to steal my fellow board members' thunder here. I'm going to let Jim comment on the details of those, but suffice it to say, I know the board knows, but for the community's purposes, we have not yet reached agreement on a path forward, although we continue to work on that, too.
All right, do you have any future meetings planned?
We had one, but it was canceled this morning, I believe, so I don't know. We have yet to, we intend to have another one before the school year is out, but we are searching for a date. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dick. Board Finance Committee, Jim Carey.
As Dick mentioned, we did have the 2 joint committee meetings to review the Diamond Campaign proposal as it stood. I think it's worthwhile to backdrop or step back a little bit to a meeting we had in this room about 16 or so months ago, when we had a large number of community members in here asking us or questioning our fiscal management in light of the deficit that we were projected to run last year, and the fact that we were running well below our board stated target of having 10% of our operating expenses in reserves. At that point in time, we spoke about our Path to Black efforts, which were reflected in a series of steps taken over multiple years to reduce the operating expenses of the district. Part and parcel of that was looking at every aspect of our spending, whether it be administrative, support staff, certainly the educational staff, and capital projects. So as we looked at that, our effort was to try to rationalize our expense base as much as we could to get back to black. And we are well on our way there. Part of that is a result of the successful negotiation of the current year teacher contract, but it's also premised that we will get there by virtue of a similar negotiation of a teacher contract for the current year that reflects current operating environments and what's happening in education. So all that is to say that we have multiple things to consider in terms of how we allocate our scarce resources, the dollars of the district and the dollars of the taxpayer. A year ago or thereabouts, when this project was first proposed, it was a freebie. And it was obviously it's a wonderful effort that the Diamond Campaign has undertaken, and it was portrayed at that point in time as something that would be at minimal, if any, cost to the district. Notwithstanding that great offer, several of us said we still had concerns in terms of, well, who was going to borrow the money up front to cover the outflow, because the money would be raised over a period of time. We also spoke at that point in time about the need to somehow protect the district in terms of what happens if those pledges are not realized in actual hard cash. So those were the concerns that we had from a financial standpoint with that project a year ago. Now today, obviously we're still working on the scope and nature of the project, but part of it now entails a contribution from the district. So I come back to where does it fit in our overall scheme relative to our path to black? Is it something that's, you know, positive or negative in terms of helping us get to that point? And the same questions still remain as the scope or nature of the project changes. Where is the money coming from? Who's doing the borrowing? Who's on the paperwork in terms of the financing? What happens if there's a failure to collect on pledges that have been made? Pledges are promises, they're not cash in the bank. And other institutions can, you know, tell you stories about how those things can fall apart and you can't count on dollar for dollar. So I think from a financial standpoint, this is a terrific project, but one that has a certain number of issues that have to be resolved when and if it comes forward. And that's, I think, a primary focus that the Finance Committee has had relative to this. John, can you add something?
No, I would completely agree. And it was absolutely unanimous in the Finance Committee that we have a responsibility beyond the responsibility to beyond being just responsive to the very generous offer of the boosters, right? We, because of the past 2.5-year budget constraints in the environment that we found ourselves in, we're especially sensitive to commitments that are being asked, that we're being asked to make, that would put the board in a position of having to finance projects that it would not otherwise have undertaken. And that's a difficult position to be in. And it's very difficult to say to someone who's presenting you with a gift, yeah, but, all right, those buts come very hard, but that's our responsibility. And the Boosters is not a not-for-profit organization that has no assets to that it could pledge, all right, on behalf of any debt that the school would incur. So we've got to be concerned. And this, what I'm trying to enunciate right now, was absolutely unanimous among the Finance Committee members.
Thank you, John. Our next meeting of the Finance Committee, I think, will also be joint, or at least we're talking about it. And one of the focal points will be our fee schedule, proposed fees for next year, as well as a consideration or reevaluation of our overall approach relative to fees versus reliance on tax revenues to finance the school. And again, that's an annual effort, but one that we think makes sense to do on a joint basis with the Operations Committee. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Jim and John. Board members, any questions or comments?
No, I would just add to Jim's comments that the Operations Committee also shared those same concerns going back a year ago, and we're in lockstep with the Finance Committee here. I mean, there's no disagreement, certainly between us, as to what we're trying to accomplish and how we'd like to get there. So,
I'd just like to add, too, that the Operations and Finance Committees were kind enough to invite those of us who don't happen to be on either of those committees to attend and participate in those joint meetings with the boosters. And I think that was the best way to keep the full board informed and involved in all the discussions. So I do appreciate having been included.
Thank you, Nikki. I would like to add that as part of our vetting process, we have our 3 board committees, Education, Operations, and Finance, and each one is made up of 2 board members, a couple of community volunteers, staff members attend, administrators attend, and we have a pretty good roundtable discussion. No one person makes the decision, no one person makes gives the presentation. And we had a room of about 20 people, plus some of the booster representatives, Brian Vandenberg and Ellen Funk. So we had a really good conversation. Everyone could ask questions. make the presentations of their choice. So I think it's been a very good process, and I hope it continues this way. Okay, moving on. We have a liaison report tonight from Nikki, who visited the Lake County Tech Campus. Nikki?
Thanks, Sharon. I suppose it isn't truly a liaison report because we don't have a liaison to the Tech Campus, but I just totally fortuitously had the opportunity to tour there, and it was so exciting, and I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to give a report. I promised to try and keep it to 5 minutes. I happened to be there registering voters on behalf of the League of Women Voters, and one of the teachers at the Tech Campus, Joe Judge, offered to give me a tour. He teaches C++ computer programming language, and the students who work with him learn to program computer games, which is, of course, very fun. Information on the Tech Campus can be found at their own website, techcampus.org, if you want to find out more. But the Lake County High School's technology campus is supported by a large number of high schools in Lake County, and students from all of the high schools in the county are eligible to attend there. They have to apply to be accepted. They offer 19 different programs that are practical, hands-on programs for students who may or may not be attending college but have an interest in some particular applied field. Several of these programs offer internships with local businesses, and some of them also provide college credit. The Tech Campus has arrangements with CLC and several four-year colleges as well to accept the credits from the technology campus. Here at the high school, I believe that students receive credit for electives. Is that correct, Jay? Okay. So some of the things that we saw there, well, two things that struck me the most about the Tech Campus were, A, that it is a very pleasant place. It's not, it doesn't look industrial. It looks like a high school, but like sort of a mega high school. Everyone I met there was extremely pleasant. The students were enthusiastic, and these are students from all over the county. So 11 of them are from Lake Forest High School, but there are students from all over the place. The school works in 3 shifts, so students come for one of the 3 2-hour shifts, take their classes, and then they're bused back to their own high schools. Some of the facilities that I saw were automotive collision repair. They have a full body shop, including a spray booth. When Lake Forest High School was being renovated several years ago, I was concerned about the fact that we would no longer have auto shop. I just thought it was sort of cool that we had auto shop, and there are some students, of course, where that's a really important offering. And I was told, well, don't worry, they can get that at the Tech Campus. Well, they can get that and much more, much more than we were ever able to offer here. There are building trades. The students build a full house every 2 years. So students come into the program as juniors. They could work on this house for 2 years. They're always within 1.5 miles of the campus, so they can get them back and forth, but they can learn all different building trades. There's a cosmetology program with a fully equipped beauty salon. You could go in and be a guinea pig. Culinary arts, they have a beautiful institutional kitchen there for the students to learn in. Emergency medical services, the students can actually take the state EMT certification exam after they complete the program there. So this is a great opportunity for students who feel that emergency medical services are their career. Firefighting was very fun because they have a real functioning fire truck that was donated to the program, and they have an indoor space where they keep the truck. The students learn how to handle all of the equipment. They have firefighting gear that's been donated from local fire departments across the county. And I watched the students being taught how to extricate a person from a burning building. The building was not burning while they were doing it, but it taught them the method of extrication. So that was pretty interesting. Welding and fabrication, they told me, is a very big area post 9/11 because of all the reconstruction in New York. There was suddenly a big boom in welding. So it's a really interesting place. The students there are so motivated because they can't just decide to go. They have to apply and be accepted into these programs. And for a student who knows that one of these applied fields is where they want to be, it's just a tremendous head start for them. So really glad that our high school has this available, and I'm really pleased I had the chance to tour it. I do encourage you to check out their website, techcampus.org, because you really get the flavor of what the place is like. So I enjoyed it very much. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you, Nikki. Anyone want to add anything? Jay, do you want to say anything?
There's something called the Board of Control, and it's the 14 schools in our conference. The principals meet on a monthly basis, and we control the conference, and a lot of it's athletics, but it's other things. We meet at the Tech Campus, and the meal is made for us by all the students out there. So it really is a great place for the 14 principals to come, and we meet with the students every single time, and so it's great. We rarely have kids from Lake Forest that go in the culinary area, but they do like the firefighting portion quite a bit.
Actually, I understood from Mrs. Barrett, or Miss Barrett, that you do have somebody in culinary arts right now. In fact, you've got early childhood education, culinary arts, photographic design, cosmetology, automotive service, and medical assisting.
Yeah, and we also only send our students to the afternoon session, so that starts at, I believe, from 1 to 3, and so we always miss the morning ones.
About how many students do we have participating? Do you know?
This year there's 11.
That's been fairly consistent, I think.
Yeah, let me pitch in, board members. Actually, the Tech Campus does have a board of control. It is the superintendents. We meet monthly, and we have the smallest participation in the Tech Campus of all 14 high schools. Warren High School, for example, I think has about 350 students. It's really a large program. I think Waukegan has maybe 250 students. Highland Park would have about 50 students. The smallest are Deerfield High School and Lake Forest High School. While we're a small part of the student population, the funding for the Tech Campus is based on the EAV, the tax base of each of the communities. It's actually in a formula with student population also. But the combination of which makes actually Lake Forest High School, while a very small student participant, we're one of the larger, it's still a small share, but because it's 14 high schools, but we're one of the larger sharing members of the co-op also. Meet monthly, and like Nikki I think gave a great description for it. I can distribute for you the total student population you can see across all programs, all high schools. So why don't I put that in your board packet for next month, and you can see that. I think you'll get to see the distribution of programming too.
I think Nikki is totally right that it is a nice place to visit, and the kids are super happy there from across the county. They're really glad that they're there, and they're happy for that opportunity across the board.
It was, this is maybe off the topic, League of Women Voters does voter registration at a lot of the high schools in Lake County, so I've been in several of them, and I was not expecting it to be as pleasant an environment as it was. It is just really a very positive place. I should mention that it's adjacent to College of Lake County. It is not a part of the college, but it's on the same campus. It's at the northwest corner of the campus.
Jay, if I were a parent of a first-time freshman at the high school, how would I know about the opportunities?
We take several visits a year with prospective students. We make announcements, and there's literature put out and signs put up and everything, and every year we have quite a few kids that go out and visit.
Okay, thank you. Vicki, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have our action items. The first is the approval of the IASB board policies. First reading. Dr. Griffith?
Okay, board members, so this would be first reading. This would just put this on the platform for consideration by the board. We had some discussion about this at our last meeting, but with approval of this first reading, then if there's any particular input from various board members, the policy committee could take that into account, look at it for possible correcting or tweaking, and then I would come back to you in the next board meeting, hopefully, for a second reading and final approval of these policies for inclusion in our board policy manual. Before you are 3 policies tonight. The first one has to do with guidance to the Board of Education and Superintendent on conducting an investigation into any employee who may be subject to investigation by law enforcement officials. I think this policy would be very helpful to have this as a part of our overall policies and procedures. The main change is that it basically requires that a criminal attorney be contacted for participation in what in the investigation interface with any police department or other agency. So that's the first policy. Should there be misconduct of a district employee, any district employee, again, this policy helps direct the Board of Education superintendent how to conduct the investigation. Secondly, this is a cleanup policy, but it's cooperation with investigation. Should there be an investigation ongoing of any kind, it does require by policy that all employees, regardless of position in the organization, be cooperative. So it's a fairly simple statement of requirement for cooperation. And then finally, a more complex policy, but one that has needing some updating and inclusion eventually into our board policy manual is under general personnel. This is social media and electronic communication policy. The policy committee did invite Cornelius DeBose to attend our last meeting. There are standards of conduct of expectations for all employees, standards for communications with parents and students. There are also disciplinary consequences that are laid out in the policy. As one can imagine, there's with the proliferation of social media, it's quite complex. I don't know if you have any particular questions about it. This would, if you would approve this one tonight, then we could begin the final review process for, again, working through any particular questions that may emerge. And Cornelius is here. He could help me with questions also. Has to do with Twitter, Facebook, email, just all media of any kind that our employees would be participating in our schools. This policy is being adopted all across the state of Illinois, as there are also now there has been new legislation designed to give guidance to school districts in the state with respect to media, social media. So again, this would be for first reading tonight.
Harry,
And so-
these policies, these are recommended policies, or at least the social media one is a recommended policy from the IASB?
Yes, all three of these policies actually have come from IASB, Illinois Association of School Boards. That association, statewide association, 98% of all school districts are members of IASB. And IASB has a small group of attorneys who filter legislation, attorney general rulings. So it's been vetted by attorneys. In our case, it was a joint policy committee with District 67. We had board members here at the table tonight, as well as from 67, and not only with Cornelius on the social media, but we had an attorney sit with us so that the board was represented by its own personal counsel looking at these policies. So we feel these are really pretty good shape, pretty ready to go. But again, it would take 2 readings by the Board of Education to implement these.
Yes, they have been reviewed twice, actually, by the Joint Policy Committee and by 2 separate law firms in addition to the IASB. So it's been pretty thorough, I think. So at this point, I would like to ask for a motion to approve first reading.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, in preparation for our second reading, board members, do you have any other questions or comments?
Actually, I do. On the misconduct of district employee policy, we refer to appointing a qualified investigator. Do we really intend that to be a qualified attorney? Because you can be an investigator without being an attorney.
I don't think in our conversations it had to be an attorney because there were so many variations on what
That's fine.
misconduct might be, and so we would have that discretion.
Okay.
And probably the advice of our attorneys as to who we would
Yeah,
go to then.
It was discussed by the group and felt to be just attorney that there could be, depending on the uniqueness of a situation, someone with a professional criminal experience that would not be an attorney but would have considerable, could be someone from a legal agency, for example, who conducts professional investigation sort of thing. So trying to be as broad as possible. It's likely that it would be an attorney, but not necessarily.
Other questions?
Yeah, Harry, you said that all of these came from IASB, and I guess my impression was that this first one, the policy dealing with misconduct of a district employee, came out of the District 67 situation. Am I wrong in that? And does this reflect the recommendations from Ronald Safer, et cetera? You also mentioned that the policy was designed to give guidance to the board and the superintendent, and I note that the policy specifically states that the board shall consult with, and if warranted, appoint a qualified investigator. I mean, I take that literally, that that's the board's responsibility as opposed to the superintendent's responsibility. Do you see that distinction, or am I reading it too closely in your opinion?
No, unless it's the superintendent that's under investigation. Specifically, the superintendent is the board agent. So it's not meant so literally that it's only a board member or the board. So the superintendent would do this on behalf of the board and also has a reporting requirement for the board too. So it's meant to be inclusive. The entire board policy manual is built that way too. And that's supported in legislation, that the superintendent is the agent of the Board of Education.
We did discuss that as well.
Well, I guess on that basis, I would object to it. Just, I mean, I would like to see it as a board responsibility, not a superintendent responsibility. I think that was part of the concern expressed in the aftermath of what happened at District 67, and it just seems to me we would be a lot cleaner the other way, but
Dick,
go ahead.
it actually reads, the literal language is the board shall consult. The board may charge the superintendent with doing that on their behalf, but they don't have to. The policy says the board.
That's why I asked, and then the response I got indicated no, that the superintendent would do that as the board's agent, and that's why I'm confused.
Any other questions or comments, board members? Anything with the second policy, cooperation with investigations?
Would it be appropriate to assume that an employee who did not cooperate or somehow impeded the investigation would be terminated for cause?
That's one of any number of disciplinary actions that could occur. That would have to be taken into account circumstance by circumstance. But lack of cooperation could result in termination, yes. But it also could result in other disciplinary action too. Letter of reprimand, suspension, those sorts of things also.
And then lastly, the social media and electronic communication policy, which I believe was recommended we review annually.
I think that's part of the policy, to review it annually.
I would just comment, I think it was extremely well-written, having read through it, very comprehensive. I don't know who deserves that credit, but I just
We'll give it to Cornelius.
throw that out there.
School Board Association. Cornelius vetted this for us ahead of time, and then he walked us through each section with the vagaries and complexities of each element. It was very, very helpful, but this was again generated by IASB.
Do you have any questions of Cornelius while he's here?
There's some wording that probably ought to be cleaned up. It refers to the elementary school district right up in the first paragraph.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was
Yes.
in the first distribution.
Okay.
We've taken care of that already.
Okay. And then down the boldface, it says employees do not have an expectation of privacy. I would think it should not have an expectation of privacy. Maybe that's semantics, but
Yeah.
just make it clear, they shouldn't expect it.
Yeah. Well, in actuality, there's an exception to that. I think they do have an expectation of policy when they should have no expectation of policy except for when they are doing something that relates to the Student Records Act. If I am sending information about a student to a counselor, that should be private.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Cornelius. Policy meets again, I believe, on June 6th at 8 a.m.
Okay, board members, thank you. Any other comments? Jim, I'll have that address, that word change. But please contact me or contact any of your board policy committee members, and we'll hope to have this ready for launch with the action of the board in the June meeting.
All right, moving on, we have the approval of the Diamond Anniversary recommendation. I would like to ask for a motion to table that at this time at the request of the booster organization. So if I can have that motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to table approval of the recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will table that to a later time. Next is the approval of the July meeting change to July 17th, 2012. Because of conflicts, because of the 4th of July weekend, trying to get all of the books closed and information out and getting ready for the new guy to come on board. The request has been made that we change our Board of Education meeting from Tuesday, July 10th to Tuesday, July 17th. Time and location of the meeting will remain the same. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay. Only because I can't attend now. None of these things are things we didn't know a year ago when we set this date, unfortunately. And I'm not complaining. I know, particularly with regard to the new superintendent, it makes it very difficult for him. It's just I've already scheduled to be out of town the following week, so I won't be able to be there.
All right, we're probably just going to eat cake and stuff anyway, so. Let them eat cake. Thank you, board members, for that. Next, we have the approval of the 2013-2014 school calendar. Dr. Griffith?
Okay, board members, you have the calendar for the 13-14 school year in front of you. This is following the traditional pattern of calendar for the high school, balanced semesters. You can see 88 days for the first semester, 88 days for the second semester. It's quite important to the faculty with respect to getting each coursework completed for the semester courses. The winter holiday is fairly standard. You've got a spring break. So I don't know if you have any particular questions, or Jay, if you would like to add anything also.
It is much more equivalent to the calendar that will go through next year. This calendar this year is a little bit start early, finish early. June 2nd is graduation this year. So next year, June 8th is graduation. It moves kind of a week and then kind of comes backwards. So it's much more like next year's calendar.
All right, is there a motion to approve the school calendar for 2013-2014?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. One thing for what you said, Mr. Block, looking at the calendar for the following year, we frequently run into the problem that our board meeting, being the second Tuesday of the month, backs up to the 4th of July holiday. And maybe for future dates, we should always have an alternate July meeting date. I see that it looks like it'll be another long weekend, and the office will be closed, and then our meeting would be on July 9th, and we'd run into that problem again. So we should probably watch for that when we approve the board calendar in July.
Yeah, I thought I'd actually bring the board calendar for 2012-13 to the June board meeting.
All right, so why don't you think about an alternate date for the July 2013 meeting? Next, we have the approval of the Human Resources Report. Dr. Griffith?
Yes, we have Jen Knight back. Thank you, Jenna, for being here with us tonight to give us the HR report.
Good evening. As you see in the HR report, we are working on some of our last touches to staffing for this year, and I know you signed a number of contracts for teachers coming back next year. We're happy to be able to pass those on. A few other things that we have going on, we were able to set a date for the Capturing Kids Heart training that I've mentioned a couple times in September of 2012. They will come and they will be working with 25 of our teachers from 115 and 25 teachers from 67. We are lucky to have Croya offer their space for us on those 3 days as they like to conduct their trainings off-site. Somehow teachers seem to duck out of trainings when they can go check on a classroom. So Croya was gracious enough to allow us their space for those 3 days, and we're looking forward to working with this group and working with our 67 colleagues at the same time. We have this summer already scheduled 10 Kessler Teaching Institutes, which is our in-house professional development strand. We offer 15, a minimum of 15 a year, and we'll have 10 running this summer for sure. Over half of them are related to technology in some way. That ranges the gamut from e-textbooks to Google Apps to flipped classrooms, but a number of different pieces that have taken off in small ways within our building, and that we now want to support a larger group of teachers, getting them some education and bringing to their classroom as we move into the fall of 2012. Another one of those Kessler Teaching Institutes has been a long-standing one. Jim Polzin is going to come back and work with some more teachers with a focus on best practices in instruction and learning styles. We have had an evolution of this program as we look at how we can, again, kind of foster this in-house and take a next step now that over half of our faculty have experienced this first kind of basic survey level course, and we are looking at the development of something that is called a professional learning community, which is not a new term for Lake Forest High School, but it is something that we are going to try and bring house through the structure of our mentors, who are 2 of our teachers who have taken on an additional responsibility, leading this group, choosing one topic a year, and having meetings over the course of the year, monthly meetings, to work with a group with a specific focus on best practice in that area. They have chosen for the 2012-2013 school year the topic of assessment. I don't think we can question the fact that that is one that relates heavily, and as the Common Core starts moving through, has become even more important. So those are a few of the things going forward. Our school year is winding down, but our teachers kind of shift gears into learning for themselves even more over summer, so we are looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, board members?
Jen, to the extent that we're looking to fill any teaching spots, how many applications or resumes do we get for openings?
It depends a little bit on the area, as you can likely guess, you know, the specialized area, but easily 200 to 300 for an opening, and that's not necessarily even a full-time opening.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, board members? Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion to approve the Human Resources Report?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. Next is the consent agenda. Board members, is there anything on the consent agenda you would like removed at this time? All right. Hearing from nobody. The consent agenda tonight consists of the approval of financial report and schedule of checks written, the approval of minutes of a regular meeting from April 10th, 2012, minutes of a special meeting from April 4th, 2012, the approval of school maintenance project grant application, the approval of the IHSA membership resolution, and there are no audio recordings to dispose of tonight. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. 3 FOIA requests were submitted. The first from Invo Healthcare Associates in Jameson, Pennsylvania. The second one from Nancy Thorner of Lake Bluff. And the third one from Nancy Thorner of Lake Bluff. Board members, are there any items you'd like to see on future board agendas? Okay, our announcements are Monday, May 21st is the Wellness Walk, Enjoy the Journey. That's at 9 a.m. At 4 o'clock that day, it is the community reception for Dr. Griffith. Wednesday, May 23rd is the last day of school for seniors. Honors Night will be that night at 7 o'clock in the Raymond Moore Auditorium. Monday, May 28th is a day of non-attendance. Saturday, June 2nd is graduation at Lake Forest High School at 2:30 p.m. Mark your calendars, board members. And Tuesday, June 12th is our next Board of Education meeting here in the West Campus boardroom. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.